Welcome everyone to Choice Conversations, the podcast dedicated to helping you improve your life, one choice at a time. I'm your host, Chris Stefanik. Let's do this. Hey gang, today I'm bringing you a conversation I had with Stephanie O'Brien. Stephanie, she's from the Moved by Purpose podcast. She's the host there. She's also an author, a speaker, a coach, and she's going to talk about how to find purpose in your life, how to, get unstuck from whatever job you might be locked in that, is just maybe paying the bills, but you just feel like miserable, or maybe you're not miserable, but it's just mediocre. You're not doing your life's calling, right? So how can you get past that to reach your full potential and do work that has meaning and purpose, and that allows you to really thrive and be happy in life? So we're going to get into that. Before I bring you that, though, I did just want to mention again, I still have the contest going where you can win access to the bonus content on Patreon. So for those of you who don't know, I have a lot of bonus material on Patreon, some really high quality stuff that is only available to my patrons. But one way that you can get access to that is by entering this contest. So to enter, it's real simple. Just share one of my podcasts, pick your favorite episode, share that on social media, tag me so that I know that you shared it, and then you're entered in. And this is running through the end of February. At the end of February, I am going to select at random someone from that group, and I will provide them with the bonus material from Patreon. So go ahead and give it a share and enter in the contest. I think you'll like it. All right, here's the episode with Stephanie O'Brien. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Oh,
it's my pleasure. So glad you could be here. So for any of my listeners who might not be familiar with your work, could you maybe take a couple minutes and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'd love to, as briefly as possible, because I can be a bit long-winded.
Hey, that is fine. If it takes the whole show, I'm sure we'll make it work. So,
okay. Yeah. So I am I guess you could define me as a career life or business coach. And I got into this work because my story is kind of what I have found to be quite typical for the millennial age group, which is we have been told to go to college, get your degree, get your job, and live happily ever after. And so I followed that path to success and found that this was not what I wanted. The career I chose wasn't what I thought it would be. Had a lot of student loan debt, and was just frustrated because I wasn't fulfilled, and I felt trapped because I had no idea what else to do. And what people do, and it's really quite comical when they find out that you're unfulfilled in your job. If you could take a guess, Chris, with what most people tell you to do. Do you have any idea?
Oh, geez. I don't. They probably say try harder or maybe switch jobs. I don't know.
No, most of them don't even really tell you to switch jobs. They tell you to go back to school.
Well, I should have known that.
Yeah. So I kept getting you should just get a master's because it will open more doors for you. Or, if you want to change career, then the solution is, if you're going to break into a new industry, is to get a master's. And it didn't make any sense to me because I'm like, but I don't know what I want to do. Why would I go and take on even more debt and get this higher degree? And I felt like I'm glad intuitively I knew that was not the right solution for me. So I did a lot of introspection, and there was a lot of things going on in my life at that time that I needed to process through, a lot of decisions I needed to make, people I needed to pretty much like separate and distance myself because they were no longer healthy for me. And I started this life transformational journey of seeking what are my passions, what am I here for, what am I meant to do. I had a general idea of what that was. Like I would always kind of have a sense or a vision, or I knew I was going to be like a communicator. Like I was always drawn to the personal development. That was something that I absolutely always loved. Like the 5 love languages or personality profiles or Tony Robbins. And I was just so drawn to that. And whenever I would see a training or a speaker, like it totally like gave me life. And then eventually people were like, you know what, you would make a really great life coach. And I had no idea what that was. And it didn't really sound that serious. And so I kind of looked into it and I was like, oh, there's more certifications, more money. And I don't even quite even know what this even is. So I just disregarded it. But then I ended up going to this conference, and this conference was put on by Dan Miller, who is the best-selling author of the book 48 Days to the Work You Love.
Oh, wow, yeah. I'm actually reading his book right now, literally. I started it like yesterday. What a coincidence.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, he's great man. I was very familiar seeing that book growing up in my house. And so I started following him on Twitter, and I noticed like this conference he had called Coaching with Excellence, and it really intrigued me. The description really drew me in, and I kept thinking about it. But at that time, I was not used to really investing in myself. And when I saw the price tag of that conference, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a lot of money. And and I mean, there are conferences that are a lot more, but and that now that I'm used to investing in myself, but that was the first time. And then I was like, not to mention I have to take time off of work and travel and all of those expenses. But I just really felt drawn to it. Like it would not let me go. And I knew I was meant to go. And so I trusted that the finances would be there, the provision would be there, and there was something there for me. And when I did attend Dan Miller's Coaching with Excellence conference, it changed my life. I saw before me like everything that I kind of had a sense I was meant to do, and it all clicked, all at that moment. And I was like, this is it. And this conference was like the blueprint for, and then this is how you make a living from this. And I was like, okay, this is why I'm meant to be here.
Right.
And so I came home from that, and I said, okay, guys, I'm going to be a coach. And that was before I really knew anything. I knew nothing about business. Like, I was a social worker. I didn't know what niche market meant or target market, like all of these things. Who's your ideal candidate or your customer avatar? Like all of this lingo. I'm like, what does that mean? And
like, isn't Avatar just a movie? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I thought those were like those things you make like on WordPress. Like, so I was like so above my head, like, but I did it anyway. And so it's been almost 4 years. And when I started, I knew nothing. And now I have a full practice, a full schedule, tons of conversations for really big accounts. And I self-taught, and I guess you can say the rest is history. My first client came like 2 weeks after I told people I was starting a business, before I had a logo or a website or even any marketing material. It was just, I saw an opportunity. There was a need and I offered to help him and he took me up on it and he paid me. So that was my first experience. Now, not all of my clients came that easily. I had to learn like how to market and get in front of the right people and all of that. But it's the most fulfilling adventure I've been on. I absolutely love it. It's not that it's easy every single day. It's certainly the biggest challenge I've ever taken on in my life, but it's also the biggest adventure and the most fulfilling.
So, when you're sitting in this conference and they're talking about how you can monetize coaching and the like, and somehow it just like it clicked to you. They're like, this is what I want to do. This is why I was sent here. I guess, how did you know? Was it just intuitive, or was there like a process of logical steps along the way?
I would say it was intuitive. I mean, I'm a person of faith, so I definitely feel like it was definitely divine guidance. Like I said, it was something that it just clicked. Now, is your question like, how did I learn how to monetize the business, or how did I know coaching was for me?
Oh, no. Yeah. How did you know coaching was for you? Because I'm thinking about it from my listener standpoint, or from my standpoint, you know, what lessons can I learn from this? And I'm like, oh, well, the lesson is I need to have Stephanie's intuition.
Yeah. No, I can tell you most people have an internal guide. Most people do. Not everybody may be in tune with it or realize what it is. I was just speaking to a guy yesterday who was telling me this fascinating story. And he's like, you know, and something within me told me, and he kept saying, he's like, I don't know what it was, but I just knew, you know.
Sure.
And some people call it maybe a gut feeling or an instinct or your intuition. Those that are more like analytical or logical thinkers, they too have it. It just presents itself a little bit differently. So this is where I ask the question of like, well, what do you continuously, or what do you find yourself continuously drawn to? You know, what keeps coming to mind? You know, because those are like your hints there. Pay attention to that. You know, have you noticed patterns? Ask other people if maybe you're being intuitive or your intuition or being in touch with just kind of knowing isn't like something you operate in naturally. Ask other people. This is where you can ask other people or pay attention to patterns or pay attention to what you continuously are drawn to. Ask other people for feedback. There's many, many ways to get answers or to get clarity. And I use and have done all of them.
Right. Is there maybe a specific exercise that you find helps people to tune in better than others maybe? Oh,
I would say be still and chill. And for some people, that's really hard. Like, I am a very fast-paced, driven person. I'm not risk averse, like going after it. Like I said, like I did not stop and say, oh, I need to go get an MBA or I need to learn all these marketing and business development books before I started. I just started and I learned from doing. And, but not everybody is like that. But I will say I see a lot of people getting very tripped up over like death by analysis.
Sure.
They can spend 30 years researching and never do anything. And but there is wisdom in planning, because I think I've seen people that are very good at planning that will get to the same destination but it's a little bit cleaner of a process. They start way later, but because they did all the research, they really seem to do it right. And it's a little bit of a cleaner approach, where mine's messy. And because I don't know what I'm doing and there's lots of errors and mistakes, but we still end up getting there. But the key is the only way that other person that is planning is they still have to take the risk to just start executing and taking action and be willing to go. So not everybody is wired to just go without having answers or information. But I do challenge you to, you're never going to have all of the answers and you're never going to have all of the information you need to feel comfortable. I do things every day that are uncomfortable. When I try new things, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. And I am not one that really enjoys extensive research. My research, I guess, is more of like having conversations with people and interviewing them and learning based off of the feedback from them, what's working and what isn't. I'm not one to like sit and look at research articles and books and because I find that getting in front of people and having conversations opens doors a lot faster. And it's way more effective because I want to get somewhere and I want to get there fast. So I will take the risk of looking foolish and running into a wall and not looking like I don't know what I'm doing. Because I don't think, in my experience, most people don't really judge that. Most people really admire the courage to do something that they don't know what they're doing, but they're willing to do it anyway. And they help you along the way, even if you're like, I mean, I've had people say, hey, that's just not how we work. And if you keep doing that, you're not going to get very far. But why don't you try this? And they're very helpful. And that's what led me to success, which is, okay. And so I listened to that. I don't feel like they rejected me or that I was criticized or sometimes I get embarrassed, but I get over it pretty quickly because I'm like, great, they're helping me succeed. So,
right. Yeah. And I found that, what people need the most, honestly, what people are missing is just like connection and empathy. And, you could do a bunch of research or, look for these exercises and different things like that. And all those things can be great, in their own, but just sitting down and for some people, to have someone to actually just listen to them is so therapeutic, and it's something that is really lacking in our society. Nobody listens to one another anymore. Everybody just comes to the table with, they have their points that they want to get across. They have their things they want to say. And when another person is talking, they're just waiting for their turn to talk rather than listening and trying to understand and connect. And that's a real need, I mean, people need to be heard. They need to be seen and empathized with. And just that alone, is something that can really help somebody out, whether you're a coach or, you're a significant other or just a parent or a friend, just to listen to people and be present. I've really found that to be helpful to the other person, much more so than me telling them what I think is, the latest bit of wisdom. And also just rewarding for myself, even to connect with them and get to know them. Do you know what I mean?
I really agree with you. I think people are very eager to jump in and offer advice, and there's a time and place for that. But it's so powerful to just sit and listen and to just ask questions. I encourage you, even if you're not a coach, I would encourage you learning about powerful questions,
yes.
Because that's how you help people find their own answers. And that really keeps you from imposing your agenda on them, but allowing them to find their own solutions. And people like come to me and they want me to tell them what to do.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, well, what do you want to do?
Right. You are not getting off that easy.
Yeah. And then I don't know. And so I process through them because it's too easy to, I think sometimes we can get a little lazy or we don't trust ourselves. And so I love empowering people to come up with their own solutions because I think we can depend on other people telling us what to do way too much. And I think that's the lazy way to go about making decisions and I really don't think it's effective and I don't think it lasts because when it's your own answer that you came up with, you're far more likely to stick to it and you've got no one to blame. When other people say, well, I did this because my teacher told me to do this or my coach told me to do this. It's like, well, why are they telling you to do this? I mean, okay, I get that there's assignments that you have or, there's a supervisor and yeah, you've got a job to do. You need to do that. But like when it comes to like making life decisions, it's like, why is anybody telling you what to do?
Sure. Yeah.
So there is a training element. I'll step in as a trainer when I see it as appropriate. But for the most part, I just patiently listen and ask the questions and allow them to come to their own solutions. And I really believe, and I tell them, is like, write these questions down and learn how to coach yourself. Self-coach yourself. Like you've got to be able to ask these questions because you can't have a coach with you 24/7 and you make thousands of decisions every single day. And you need to be able to like coach yourself through that decision-making process, big or small.
Right.
But to go back to the being still, I think that being still is really, really important to learning how to listen and slow down to pay attention to the questions that you're even asking yourself. We all are asking some kind of question, but a lot of them are wrong. Like, why am I a failure? I was like, that's not a really good question to ask. Instead, I hear people say kind of, they expose what's really going on internally. Like, and I hear this a lot with moms too. Like they say, "Oh, I failed today." I'm like, "Well, what makes today? What about today makes you feel like you failed?" And it's just like challenging that internal conversation and dialogue around. And instead of like totally it doesn't do anything, and you don't feel empowered. You feel totally defeated. Like that type of mindset does not set you up for success. Instead, I would say, instead of saying I totally failed today or why am I always a failure, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or what can I do differently next time? And it's way more of an empowering approach to get you out of that victim mentality that a lot of people are in that don't realize that they're in. And we all fall into it from time to time,
sure,
including me.
Right.
So
yeah, no, it's a very common archetype. And you talk about like coaching yourself and all of that. I don't know, are you familiar with mastermind groups? Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah. I have some, and I'm part of one, and I run some.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a mastermind group, and I'll just real quickly for my listeners who may not be familiar, a mastermind group is just a group of people who are joining together to support each other and help each other to succeed. So you go into the group, and the way, at least in our mastermind group, each week people take a turn being in the hot seat, and you come in and you say, what your pain point is, and the rest of the group will give you advice and you kind of work together and hold each other accountable and the like to help be successful. They usually have a theme, so the theme of my mastermind group is entrepreneurial adventures, but they could have different themes or whatever, but it's about having success in your life and having a group to support you and help you on that quest. So it's so funny in our group, whenever I'm not in the hot seat, which is the majority of the time, right? One of my, almost every time, my recommendation is to go, as you would put it, get chill. It's to go get quiet and meditate on your problem, and ask yourself, I'll pose these questions, meditate on, put it in a question form and sit there and get, get in a meditative state and then, and think about it for, and it's gotten to the point now where we have joked about it that we have a Facebook group for our mastermind. And we're like, yeah, we just need to pin this response from Chris to the top of the Facebook group because it's the response every time, But it's appropriate almost every time, It's okay, this is what you need. I mean, it's with some rare exceptions when maybe there's a really technical pain point that they need some technical advice on, that, but that it wouldn't be as appropriate. But I mean, and just about every time it's yep, that's probably something you want to do.
Yeah, I am big, meditation is something that I am challenging myself to get into a daily practice of. I do some form of it, whether it's for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And for people that are really fast drivers, that are high achievers, like me, it is so difficult to slow down and to meditate. And you hear the habits of highly successful people, meditation is definitely a common practice. And it's still very difficult for me, especially when you have a lot on your plate. You've got a lot of responsibilities on your shoulder, and you feel overwhelmed that all of this has to get done right now. And the thought of sitting for 20 minutes to just breathe and center yourself just sounds irresponsible and really annoying. But I find that when I'm kind of most heightened in stress is when I'm okay, that's my cue. I'm going to go meditate. And so I will go sit in my car or find some private place. I have the Calm app, which I highly recommend using that. It's guided meditations where you just practice calming your thoughts, calming your mind, and being still. And it's amazing how much more clear you are. And instead of trying to force outcomes or force solutions, you allow the calmness and the answer to kind of surface through the very, very loud noise going on in your head.
Well, I like that. Yeah. I've definitely found a lot of value in similar practices that I have. Well, we're running out of time, and I feel like we're just getting started. Now, before I let you go, I know that you have a wonderful podcast, Moved by Purpose. Could you maybe, I guess, if you could tell the listeners, what was the motivation behind starting a podcast, and what is what's the big takeaway that people get from when they listen to your podcast?
Well, I started off blogging because I know how important content is, and then got frustrated with it because I'm such an external communicator. Mm-hmm. So then I just was I love listening to podcasts. I love verbally communicating. I probably would do better podcasting than I would writing. And so that's what really got me to start a podcast. And I love it. When I branched out from working full time for somebody else to working for myself, I did not realize how much I would miss working with a team or that daily interaction with people because I'm such a high extrovert. And podcasting was the solution to be able to interview people and build relationships and have that sense of connection. That became my sanity for me for a while, because I could not take not being around a team every day. And so this was kind of like the saving grace for a while, because when extroverts are like, I did this to myself really, but when extroverts don't get in front of people, it really depletes them, and it can put them in a bad space. So that's why I was like, okay, I need to podcast, and now I do speaking, and I do a ton of networking to get in front of people, to save myself from going insane. Introverts can handle being on a computer a lot more than I can. So,
right, gotcha.
Yeah, and the show is all about. It's very similar. It's a personal and professional development podcast. We have guests varying from topics about money, topics about success, developing a positive mindset and outlook on life, to business development tips and tricks. And I've had New York Times bestselling authors on there. I've had like a goat farmer on once, which is really interesting.
Right.
So I love the guests. I love the topics, all under the emphasis of living a life you love and fulfilling your purpose here on earth.
Nice. And if my listeners would like to get a hold of you, either to check out your podcast or maybe get some coaching, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to connect with me is at my website over at movedbypurpose.net, not .com, .net. So movedbypurpose.net. You can fill out the contact form that goes to me or someone on my team who will route it to me. And you could check out some other content that I have there. I am offering a free group coaching session as well for those that may be ready for a transition, either in their careers or they're looking to take their business to the next level. And I'm thinking of splitting them up into 2 groups based off of the needs, but that is being offered. And space is limited to only 10 people. So if you're interested in that, make sure you email me over at movedbypurpose.net, and we'll get you set up for that.
Wow, that's great. Awesome. All right. Well, Stephanie, it's been so nice talking to you today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Chris. It's been an honor.
All right. Take care. All right, gang. I hope you enjoyed that. Be sure to go over to movebypurpose.net and check out her work, her podcast, and go ahead and contact her about that free group coaching session. I mean, what a great opportunity. So that's fantastic that she's putting that out there. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm still running the contest for the bonus content from Patreon. You can get access to bonus content by entering the contest. Just share one of my episodes, share this one on social media, tag me so that I know you shared it, and you're entered in the contest. And at the end of February, I will be selecting a winner. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening in. Have a great day. Or not. The choice is yours.